Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into a technical analysis of a stock that is making some absolutely serious waves. We're going to get into the data, the charts, and really understand the story behind these huge numbers.
So just imagine this for a second. You're watching a stock and bam, it jumps nearly 13% in one day. I mean, that is a massive move, right? It's the kind of number that just makes everyone sit up and pay attention.
And get this, it's not just some random one-day spike. On top of that huge daily gain, the stock is also trading at its absolute peak of its entire 52-week history. We're talking the highest it's been all year.
So, on the surface, this picture looks absolutely perfect, doesn't it? A monster daily gain and a new yearly high. But, as any trader who's been around the block knows, the real story is almost always a little more complicated than it looks.
All right, so let's dive right in. To really get a handle on what's going on here, we've got to start by looking at all the technical signals that are basically just screaming buy. This is the raging bull case, plain and simple.
Okay, so one of the most basic tools in the toolbox is the simple moving average, or SMA. All it is, really, is the stock's average price over a certain period of time, and analysts use it to check the health of a trend. The big question is the current price trading above these averages?
And the answer here? It is a clean sweep. I mean, look at this. The price isn't just above one or two of them. It's trading above every single key SMA, from the short-term 5-day all the way out to the long-term 200-day. That right there is a powerful, almost textbook sign of a really sustained uptrend.
And this trend? It has some serious muscle behind it. We're looking at the average directional index, the ADX, and it's at 50.61. Now, to put that in perspective for you, anything over 25 is considered a strong trend. So a reading over 50, that is just exceptional. You can see the uptrend component is just completely crushing the downtrend one. It's undeniable momentum.
And believe it or not, the good news for the bulls just keeps on coming. You've got other key momentum indicators like the MACD that are positive and climbing. Trading volume is super high, which tells you a lot of people are jumping in on this move. And the on-balance volume, it just confirms that buyers are firmly in the driver's seat. I mean, literally every signal is pointing in the exact same direction.
So, with all this good news, it's gotta be a sure thing, right? This stock can only go up from here. Well, not so fast. It's time to flip the coin and look at the other side of the story. Let's check out the warning signs that are starting to flash bright red.
And this right here, this brings us to the central conflict of this whole analysis. You've got this incredibly powerful momentum pushing forward on one side, but on the other, that very same move is shoving the stock into what's called an overbought condition. Basically, it might be getting way too hot, way too fast, and could be due for a cool down.
A great way to think about it is like a car's engine. You're flooring it, and the tachometer is screaming deep in the red zone. Sure, you can do that for a quick burst of speed, but you can't just keep the engine screaming like that forever without risking some serious trouble. Sooner or later, you've got to ease off the gas.
And looking at the data, this engine is definitely in the red. The Relative Strength Index, the RSI, is way up at 88.40. Now, for context, anything over 70 is already considered overbought. So this just shows the buying has been absolutely fast and furious. Maybe a little too fast.
And if you thought that was high, check this out. Another indicator, the Stochastic Oscillator, is even more extreme. It's sitting at an incredible 98.55. And for this one, anything over 80 is overbought. What this tells us is that the price is closing near its absolute peak, day after day after day. And that's a pattern that is just really, really hard to keep up.
And to top it all off, the Money Flow Index confirms the exact same story. At 93.71, it's showing a massive and, let's be honest, probably unsustainable amount of money has just poured into this stock. So when you see three different independent indicators all screaming the same overbought warning, yeah, you got to take that seriously.
Okay, and the last big warning sign comes from Bollinger Bands. Now, these bands basically create a sort of expected trading range for the stock, and the price has literally broken out above the top of that range. Now, sure, that's a sign of strength, but it's also a sign of an extreme condition, and those extremes often come right before a pullback. A return to normal.
So, what do we do with all this? It's a classic standoff. We have this incredibly strong bull case running smack into some really serious warning signs. So how does a professional analysis take these two dueling signals and come up with a final verdict?
Well, after crunching all the numbers and weighting every single factor, we're talking the trends, the momentum, and those overbought warnings, the analysis spits out a final technical score. And that score is a very, very high 83.78 out of 100.
So here's the kicker. Despite all those flashing red lights we just talked about, the overwhelming strength of the trend, it still wins out. The final conclusion from the data is strong bullish. The momentum is just that powerful.
But, and this is probably the single most important takeaway from this whole thing, the final advice isn't to just rush in and buy right now. Actually, it's the exact opposite. The recommendation is to be cautious, to let that engine cool down a bit and look for a better entry point after a pullback or maybe after the price trades sideways for a bit.
And really, that leaves us with the critical question, the real takeaway here. When a stock that's this strong, but also this overbought, finally does pull back, is that the buying opportunity the analysis is hinting at? Or is it the beginning of a much bigger reversal? And that, right there, is the billion-dollar question.